Are you a busy mom that maybe you go to work and you sit a lot at work in a chair, or you're doing a lot of driving, or you're at home and you have a small baby and you're sitting a lot, either breastfeeding or formula feeding, whatever feeding you're doing, but you're sitting and feeding the baby a lot, or you have toddlers and you're sitting on the floor. And all of these things, you notice that your hips are tight and just not feeling as fluid as you want them to feel. Keep watching for how I deal with this. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Sara, family physician, wife, mom of 5, and exercise enthusiast. So after my first baby was born, had really no idea what I was doing getting back into exercise. I grew up as an athlete. I was incredibly active through my pregnancy with her, like running up until the day of delivery, in the gym, all these things, and then delivered her and basically felt like I had no idea how to get back to being active. And so I took the route of jumping right back in and started, basically like picked up where I left off. And that led to a whole host of issues, which is really a whole separate video. But one of the things that happened is I developed some pretty significant hip pain. And ultimately, after imaging and visits with multiple doctors, including a sports medicine doctor, it turned out that I had basically caused an overuse injury because I got back into activity so quickly and I was not stretching and strengthening my body in an appropriate way for what I was trying to get back into. And so that taught me a really important lesson of how to get back to movement postpartum. And it's not you went into pregnancy at this level and you deliver and then you start back at this level. That's what I tried to do, and that was a major fail. So lessons were learned, and what I learned is you have to really start from a new baseline when you're postpartum. You have to build back a lot of things. Now, yes, if you were active prior to delivery, your body will recover quicker and things will feel better faster, but you still have to recognize that you were pregnant, you had labor and delivery, and now you're postpartum. And all of those are major life events, but also they majorly impact your body and your mind. And so you have to just be aware of that and be gentle with yourself when you are getting back to movement in the postpartum period. So all that to say, I caused myself a hip flexor injury because I wasn't stretching, I wasn't really strengthening. I just started to go back to some like intense type workouts, and without really building back any of my pelvic floor or my core musculature, which then contributed to some hip issues, and then I wasn't stretching. So it was this whole host of things. But the point is, I wanted to show you today 3 stretches that I do on a regular basis for my hips that have been incredibly helpful for increasing flexibility, for helping with low back pain, for helping keeping my hips feeling like loose and like I have the ability to get up and down off the floor easily, in and out of a chair easily, like all these things that happen when you're a mom of a lot of kids, and of little kids, certainly, where you're up and down off the floor. So the caveat with, like always, I've mentioned this before in other videos, you always want to talk with your healthcare, your physician, your team about what's right for you, and ask lots of questions. Ask, especially at like your postpartum visit, ask about things. And if the people that you're seeing don't have the answers, get referrals to people that do. Certainly things like physical therapy and learning more about how your body heals postpartum is incredibly important. And so I just want to empower anyone that's watching to really ask lots of questions at your doctor's visit and feel satisfied with the answers that you're getting. And if not, then look for the answers or get help to find the answers from somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 hip stretches today. And the last one is going to be my current favorite one that I absolutely despised when I first learned about it. So I'm going to show you that. But the first one we're going to get into is we're going to be in so on your knees, take your right knee up to a 90-90 position. And then I take a step back with that left leg and my toes are just flat on the floor there. Now this, again, I always talk about this, but you guys can do whatever's feeling good for you. So you can have both palms on the floor on the inside of your right foot. You can have your right palm up on this knee. And you can change around your positioning to see what part of your body it really gets into and what feels right for you that day. And then you could also like lower down onto your elbows to get a little more into it. I'm going to stay here with both hands planted on the mat. And you really want to think about leaning into that left hip flexor. So that's the front of your left hip. And just do some nice deep breaths here. With stretching, you always want to think about breathing in, expanding your ribs in all directions, and then exhaling audibly. Amazing. And I will hold stretches like this, sometimes 30 seconds, sometimes a minute, sometimes 2 or 3 minutes. It just depends on how my body is feeling that day and what my body needs. And you may be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, how do you even know that? And that's how I felt initially when I started getting more into stretching and moving consistently a few years ago. But over time, you will start to learn. You will start to get in tune with your body the more you do this stuff. And so it's all about the consistency. So then I just rock back. And I'm going to bring this foot back and then get this one up into the 90-90. And again, you can inch that right leg back a bit. And so again, you can have your hands on the mat. You can have your left hand on that knee. I tend to do the same on both sides just because I like the stretch to be equal. And again, you want to be really thinking about that breathing. So it's a nice breath in, expanding your ribs in all directions, and then exhaling audibly. And when you're stretching, you want to think about sending the breath into that area that you're stretching. And that sometimes sounds like, really, is that really going to work? Yes, it absolutely does. This is another thing that with practice, when you think about it and sending the breath there, your brain allows that muscle to get longer and lengthen even further. Okay, now we're going to rock back out of that. Okay, next we are going to go into pigeon. So this is where I'm going to take my left heel in front of my right knee or right thigh, and then this may be enough for you. So you should be in this position, you should be feeling a deep stretch in like the left glute area. And you can also adjust the positioning of that foot, your left foot. The biggest thing with this stretch is you want to make sure you're not collapsing into either of your hips. Your hips should be square and you're not dropping to one side or the other. And you can also then go down onto your elbows. And you can even extend your arms out if you like. Just for the purposes of sound, so you can hear me, I'm going to stay up here. But wherever your arms feel good, wherever the stretch feels good, you can hang out there. And again, you really want to think about that breathing. And this is where a lot of times I will combine stretching with meditation, because I find that stretching in and of itself is almost sort of like a meditative type of movement, because you're staying in the same position potentially if you're doing static stretching, which is where you stay still. And a lot of times, if it's a stretch that's a little bit more challenging, now you should never have pain with stretching, but if you feel discomfort, sometimes having mantras that you say during those can be really helpful as well. Okay, so then I will plant my hands, kind of push my upper body up, and then get that leg out. And then we're going to take the right leg up. And then again, you can drop down. So my right heel is kind of in line with my right hip area. And you should be feeling a stretch in the right glute. Now, much of what I post here is appropriate pregnancy and postpartum. This stretch obviously is a little trickier much later in pregnancy. I have another stretch from actually when I was very pregnant that I can link below that you can definitely check out if you're pregnant, or if you just find that this stretch is not feeling like what you need. There are other ways to stretch this outer glute, outer hip area, if this is just a position that is not working for you. And that's okay. It's all about finding what works for you. You definitely want to push yourself out of your comfort zone, but you also want to make sure you're being safe for your body. So we'll do a few more breaths here. And then we will get on to my current favorite. Okay, so we're going to push up, slide that leg out. So this last one is called frog. And so you get into a knees apart on your mat. Make sure your feet are flexed. And then you can just drop down. So if this is good, like if this is intense enough for you, that's great. You can also go down to your elbows and let your head relax. And with this one, you can intensify it by pushing your hips back just a touch, like an inch or so. And this one, again, if this is your first time ever doing this, this is one that when I first started, it can be uncomfortable because your hips are often so tight from sitting, from just daily life. If you have pain, don't stay in it. If it's like, oh, this is uncomfortable, that's okay. You want to think about breathing through it, sending the breath into those uncomfortable areas. And over time, with practice, the more you do it, it becomes less uncomfortable and your flexibility increases. And you'll notice some of those day-to-day things feeling easier, feeling lighter, like your hips just feel so much better. But again, if you ever have pain, you always want to stop. And again, you're going to do those nice big breaths in and then exhale audibly. And this is another one that I will often kind of do some mantras or meditate through, because I find that to be really helpful, combining those things. And like this is one, a lot of times, like during nap time, or even if I just have a minute or two, I will do stretches kind of scattered throughout the day, because I find that it helps keep my body and my mind feeling good throughout the day. So you can try that too. Okay, so then to get out of this, I press up on my hands, and I will typically bring my feet in and then just lift up and lift my knees up. So those are 3 stretches that can be really helpful for opening up your hips. You can do them all in like a little workout like that. You can do them scattered here and there throughout the day. Definitely subscribe, ring the bell so you never miss a video. I'm so glad that you're here. And I mean, imagine you're somebody, like I was, that had a major hip injury after my postpartum period because I got back to regular exercise too quickly without taking care of my body, without stretching. And since then, I have been able to maintain things by stretching on a regular basis. And imagine if you're somebody that is sitting a lot and you have stiff hips, you wake up and it just feels like everything is kind of crunchy and not feeling great. And then with doing a few stretches that you can do in even 3 to 5 minutes a day, things feel better. You feel loose and you feel confident that you're not going to have pain or achiness. How amazing would that be? All right, I will leave that other stretch I mentioned in the description box if you want to catch that, and I will see you next time. All right, bye everyone.